Hey there, folks. Before we dive into today's story, I want to remind you that you're watching Celebrity Recreations with Chris Dallas, where no other channel brings you the hard-hitting, in-your-face stories quite like this one. Whether it's politics, humor, or the real truths no one else will talk about, this channel's got it all. If you enjoy unique, awesome storylines and want more content that tells it like it is, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like, comment, and share. Let's help this channel grow, because trust me, you're not going to find anything like this anywhere else. Now let's get started. Folks, today we've got a real problem brewing in New York City. You may have heard that they're now planning to secure 14,000 hotel rooms to house migrants. That's right, 14,000. And it's all part of a growing crisis that's costing the city billions. Now, Mayor Eric Adams, he's expecting the total bill could hit $10 billion by next year. Imagine that, $10 billion of taxpayer money while they struggle to handle their own homeless crisis.
JD, it's absolutely insane. The city has already spent over $2.3 billion just for housing migrants in hotels. That's more than the budget of some small countries. You've got a situation where they're projecting to spend over $5 billion, and they're locking in more hotel rooms, even though we've seen a drop in border encounters. Yet, they're still pushing forward like this is sustainable.
And let's not forget, Tulsi, the average cost per night for these hotel rooms is around $352. That's insane. For 36,939 households. And the city's on the hook for this until at least 2025, as their budget forecasts show. That's food, healthcare, shelter, all funded by New Yorkers. Meanwhile, their own citizens are facing inflation, rising rent, and struggling to make ends meet.
What's really frustrating, JD, is how this all started. Back in 2021 and 2022, as border numbers surged, major cities like New York, Chicago, and Philadelphia were flooded with migrants. We saw thousands bust from Texas as Governor Greg Abbott made his point that sanctuary cities were encouraging this crisis. And let's be honest, they were. These sanctuary policies limit cooperation with federal immigration enforcement, sending the message that they'd handle it. Well, now they're drowning in it.
Right, and while they preach compassion, they're really just offloading the problem onto the people. Over 218,000 migrants have been given services in New York since 2022. That's everything from work permits, temporary protected status, and asylum applications. Over 72,000 of those applications processed. And on top of that, they've bought 47,000 bus tickets to send migrants elsewhere across the country. It's a Band-Aid solution, not a real fix.
And now, JD, we're seeing this crisis evolve. The number of migrants in shelters has dropped for 14 straight weeks, and they're closing tent shelters like the one on Randall's Island. But the fact remains, this isn't over. Over 700 new migrants arrived last week alone. It's clear the border situation might have improved for a brief moment, but the underlying problem is still here. There's no comprehensive strategy to deal with the long-term effects of this.
And what's worse, Tulsi, is how these costs are eating into resources that could be going to actual New Yorkers. The migrant spending alone will exceed $4.75 billion in 2025, all while the city struggles with its own homelessness, lack of affordable housing, and overburdened public services. This isn't just a border issue anymore, it's an economic disaster for cities like New York.
Exactly, and we need to talk about how these sanctuary city policies have backfired. They might have sounded good in theory, but in practice, they've turned these cities into magnets for an unmanageable crisis. Governor Abbott sent them migrants to make a point, and he's made it. But instead of addressing the real issue, securing the border and reforming immigration policy, these leaders keep digging the hole deeper.
New Yorkers deserve better. This isn't a sustainable way to manage a crisis. Mayor Adams and his administration need to be held accountable for how they're spending taxpayer money. Billions wasted on temporary fixes that don't solve the core problem. It's a disservice to both the migrants and the residents of New York City.
We need real leadership that focuses on fixing the root causes, not just patching the symptoms. Immigration reform has to start with securing our borders and making sure our policies work for both the American people and those seeking a better life. It's time for cities like New York to stop shouldering this burden alone and for the federal government to take real action.
We're going to keep an eye on this, folks. It's important that we hold our leaders accountable and make sure we're not throwing away hard-earned tax dollars on unsustainable policies. New York and every sanctuary city across America deserves a better solution than what we're seeing now.
Absolutely, JD. will be watching. If anything, when Trump wins, most of these illegals are going to be shipped right back to where they came from. All these problems gone under a Trump administration. It's an absolute disgrace to see billions wasted on people who shouldn't even be here, while our own homeless, many of them veterans, are sleeping on the streets, digging through trash just to survive. Biden, Kamala Harris should hang their heads in shame for letting it come to this. And you know what? When Trump wins, I'm really looking forward to seeing all those celebrities who promised to leave the country actually follow through this time. We can even set up a GoFundMe to help them pack their bags and get the hell out for good. Let's make it happen. So that's it for now, folks. Thanks for sticking with us through today's story. As always, you're watching Celebrity Recreations with Chris Dallas, a place where truth meets creativity and where we aren't afraid to tackle the stories that others shy away from. If you love what we're doing here, make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and share the content with your friends. Help us spread the word and grow this community, because the truth deserves to be heard. I'm Tulsi Gabbard with my friend beside me, JD Vance, wishing you all well, and we'll see you all next time again. Remember, this is the channel that tells it like no other, and don't forget to go out and vote for Trump.